subtopic we are going to cover is the nutritional component of a compound feed. A fully balanced compound food for the poultry should contain carbohydrates, which are the sources of energy, and in nutrition value we calculate them as kilojoules per gram. That is the metabolizable energy found in that portion of feed. And when we talk of metabolizable feed, we mean that the feed that has been assimilated into the system of the animal to provide energy for production of egg, synthesis of the tissues, all production of carcasses, or whatever purpose the bird has been kept for. In our country, we are lucky to have many sources of carbohydrates with us. The main source of carbohydrate for a poultry feed is the grain. The grain or the maize, the corn, it is highly available and grown throughout the country, Kenya. It is the main source of energy for the bird. It's important to note that having been available, it also has its own limitation because it has about 14.5 kilocalories per gram. That is the amount of metabolizable energy that is found in 1 gram of maize. The best maize, if you are able to get, is the yellow maize because it contains a substance called the carotene, which previously I talked about and said is a very good source of the yellow color that is found in the yolk. We also have other sources of carbohydrates that can be used, like the sorghum. Everybody knows the sorghum is a product that grows in the dry region of this country. It can be a good source of energy, but it has also a limitation because it is very high in fiber. I talked about the digestion of the poultry and say that it is recommended that you do not use very fibrous material because the digestion does not take very long in the digestive system. We have only 6 hours to take care of all the nutrients that have been provided in the food. So if at all you are using a fibrous energy source, you may be looking for energy, but that energy is not available for the bird. If you're not able to use sorghum, we have finger millets. The finger millet is also a product that is grown in the dry regions of this country. It's also a good source of energy, but the only problem that we have with the finger millet is it is highly prone to aflatoxin. And aflatoxin is one factor that is affecting our productivity of the birds. So I'm giving you the sources that you can use, the sources of energy and disadvantages of using it. So unless you are sure that you have tested your finger millet against aflatoxin, it is not an advisable product to use for the poultry. Aflatoxin is one of the many mycotoxins that are found in moist areas, or the fungus that we find when something dries up in a cold area. So the finger millet, because it doesn't dry very well, that's why the fungus grow on it. And when those fungus grow into the system of the bird, because the digestive system is moist, they are able to multiply in large numbers, and they affect the microbes in the lower gut. They kill them, And so your bird is always going to have wet diarrhea because you have limited mycotoxin in the bird. They are also not affected by high temperatures. If you, by any chance, you feed on the meat that has an infested bird by mycotoxin, even if you cook that chicken for 24 hours boiling it, the mycotoxin are able to multiply even in high temperatures. So they are also transferred into us human beings. So it's a form, aflatoxin is one member of the mycotoxin that are available. Every time you find fungus on the food or the molds, sometimes when you have bread going bad, there is a mold. That's a form of mycotoxin. I'm talking of such a thing. Now in this class, I'm talking about one family called the aflatoxin. It's a mycotoxin that is poisonous into the system, the digestive system of the bird. It can also affect you. It can also affect other types of animals. The other source of energy that we have available in our country is the wheat. The wheat is very good source of energy and highly digestible, but should be limited in use in poultry because it's very sticky. You remember what I said about the digestion system of the bird is that the food leaves the beak, it goes to the esophagus, mixes with water into the crop. If you feed your bird with a lot of wheat, the food sticks together as a gum. Actually, we say it is gluteus. And so that food is not able to go into the proventriculars. And some food will be left in the crop. So your bird is going to be ever feeling full, yet the food has not reached the digestive system. It's very important that you limit the use of wheat. Actually, we say if you're using wheat, use it to about 3% of the amount of feed that you're making because of that factor of being very sticky. The other source of energy that we have in the market is the barley. The barley is very high in energy, but it also has a limitation of the high fiber in it. So even if we wanted to use barley in our poultry feeds, we are limited by the amount of fiber that is present in that product. So we are limited to the fact that the only product that we are able to use as our source of energy for poultry is just maize, a bit of sorghum, and a bit of wheat. So that's why whenever you see us formulating feed for poultry, we are pushed to just use the maize, whereas there are other available sources of energy because of the few limitations that I've given you, because we are guided by the digestive system of every animal. If I was going to talk about the cow, I'd use a lot of barley because more fiber is required. But in this case, the bird does not need a lot of fiber, so I'm limited to just using the corn and sorghum and a little bit of wheat. And so it's important that you do note what can be your sources of energy in poultry feed. The other product that should also be available in a compound poultry feed is protein. Protein are the body building food. So the tissues that are formed, the organs that are formed as a result of the availability of protein. For your bird to be productive, it must have enough energy to start and must have enough proteins to form those organs. For a bird to reach its laying period, you must provide enough protein for the formation of the ovary, for the formation of the egg, that it can be able to lay the egg. And also, when the tissues get worn out inside the body of the bird, the proteins are able to repair. Every time we have cells being formed, cells being dying, and they need to be replaced. This replacement only happens by the use of protein. So these are very important food components, especially in all fields of nutrition. What is important to note is that proteins are made up of amino acids, chains of amino acid. A poultry, when the food gets in the stomach of every animal, they are able to synthesize their own amino acid. A bird requires about 20 amino acids in total. And it's important to note that the bird has a limitation. It is not able to synthesize 10 of the very important amino acids. So you must work a way into which you must provide. Even if you feed your bird with a lot of proteins, remember that you must know that in this protein that I'm feeding, what amino acid am I providing? Because even if that the proteins get into the body, the body of the bird is not able to synthesize some of these important proteins. In the 10 amino acids that the bird is not able to synthesize include what we call the lysine. That is one amino acid the bird is not able to synthesize at all. Methionine, tryptophan, threonine, isoleucine, lysine, phenylalanine, histamine, valine, and glutalamine. All those 10 amino acids that I have mentioned, the bird is not at all able to synthesize. So whenever you're providing a protein source, you must be sure what variety, what amino acid am I bringing into the body of the bird. So whenever you're doing feed formulations and you find us working with all types of proteins, is because we are looking for the availability of methionine from one product, availability of lysine from one product. That's where you see us when we do the formulation, and that's why you require an expert to ensure that you have all the amino acid put in place, because they are all important for the production. I can just mention methionine is one amino acid that is required for the egg production. If you don't provide your animals with amino acid, you may not, methionine, tomorrow you may not have any production. So just to mention the few that are very essential. Then I said the bird requires 20 types of amino acid, and I said 10 it is not able to synthesize. But the last 10, 3, luckily the bird is able to synthesize for itself. And these ones include the aspartic acid, the alanine, and the glutamine. Those 3 the bird is going to be able to synthesize for itself, so you do not need to supplement those. The rest 7, the bird will be able to convert. When you provide phenylalanine in the feed, it's going to form another amino acid from phenylalanine amino acid called the tyrosine. And this is a very important amino acid, because it's the one that if the birds have enough tyrosine amino acid, your birds may not suffer from respiratory problems. The farmers that have done a lot of poultry production, you know, whenever your birds are suffering from diarrhea, respiratory diarrhea, you are given one powder called the thyrodoxine. That is, there's availability of that amino acid called the tyrosine. But if you provide the essential amino acid phenylalanine there prior, you'll be able to form the amino acid tyrosine in your bird. So the rest of the 7, the bird is able to convert the essential amino acid into these other 7 that are called the convertables. So it's very important that you provide the first 10 that are not the bird is not able to synthesize, that you can be able to synthesize the rest 7 that the bird will be able to convert methionine into cysteine. So if you provide one of the essential, it will be able to convert that non-essential to convert that essential into non-essential. So that's why I always say that whenever you are formulating your feed, ensure that the sources of protein that you get are able to provide the non-essential amino acid. The first thing that I say the bird is not able to synthesize, we call them the essential amino acids. So they must be available to the bird by provision from you. You have no choice, you have to provide, otherwise your bird is not going to perform. The sources of protein that we have for our poultry, we have oil, the byproducts of oil as our sources of proteins, because whenever you exclude the oils from any plant, if you exclude the oil from sunflower, you are left with a high percentage of protein. So one very good source of protein is the sunflower cake. Sunflower cake is one product that is very edible to the bird. Every time you feed your birds on sunflower, they will eat. There is no problem. It is very important to note that sometimes when the oils are extracted wrong, you may go to high temperatures, denaturing oil, making the availability of the amino acid very limited. It is also very important to note that the sunflower cake is a very good source of lysine, amino acid lysine. So anytime you get your sunflower, take it for analysis. If it's going to give you a percentage crude protein of 24, you are assured of the availability of lysine in that product. The other source of protein that we have from the plant is the soya. The soya bean is not edible by the bird. Please note that if you feed your bird on whole seed of soya, it has no nutrition value because the soya contains one product that inhibits the provision of the proteins called the trypsin. Once the trypsin surrounds the coating of the soya, it inhibits any other protein from being available. So if you feed your birds on whole soya, you are giving them zero protein, and that has no nutrition value. In fact, it can be poisonous. So the soya that we use soya that has been subjected to heating. The full soya seed, if subjected to heating, it is called full fat soya. The full fat soya, if subjected to temperatures of, note carefully that the soya that you get must be subjected to temperatures of 90 degrees to 120 degrees Celsius. So every time you buy a full soya or full fat soya, note that that soya should be subjected to heating of 90 to 120 degrees Celsius. That way you have killed the trypsin. If the soya has been burnt to lesser temperatures, it means that the trypsin is still available, and so the protein that you want to achieve is not going to be available to the bird. Full fat soya is very rich in fat, so a good source of energy and has a good percentage of protein. So when you're using full fat soya, you have to be very careful whether you are looking for energy or you're looking for protein. The best soya to use for poultry is the oiled soya. Soya in which the oil has been extracted and it's dry. That's what we call the de-oiled soya. This de-oiled soya, for sure, it has been subjected to temperatures of above 120 degrees Celsius, and we are sure that the trypsin has been killed, and as a result of the extraction of the oils, we have high protein as high as 48%. So you can use soya as full fat, but not. Are you looking for soya as sources of energy, or are you looking for soya as a source of protein? If the source of protein, the best soya to use is the de-oiled soya. You are sure that it has been dried, oil has been extracted, and we have enough proteins. The other source of protein that we have in the market is the cotton seed cake. The cotton seed cake is a byproduct after which the oils have been extracted from the cotton seed, and we are left with the cake. It's very important to note that the quality of the cotton seed cake also matters. If the tint or the fiber, it is too much, it means that that cotton seed cake has high fiber. It is not going to be very good for your poultry. So whenever you are buying your cotton seed cake, note that it should be greenish to yellow color. Always look at the color green to yellow. Otherwise, if you find it's brown, it means it has a lot of fiber, a lot of crop, and it's not good for your poultry. The other sources of protein that we have in our surrounding is the fish meal, or what everybody calls the omena. Fish meal has the best source of crude protein, and all the crude protein that is available in the fish is highly digestible. But you should also be very careful when you're buying your omena. Remember that it should contain no silt, because if it contains silt, you are not able to achieve the protein levels, and again you are going to increase the insoluble ash. So in the gizzard, where I told you that a lot of the undigestible products are put aside, or the SAD, you had mentioned that you are going to do 50 kilos of fish meal, but now you have 20 kilos of fish meal but 20 kilos of silt. All that 20 kilos is going to be sealed into the gizzard, and only 20 kilos. So what you are projecting as the available protein for your poultry is not actually what you have given to your poultry. So ensure that the poultry, the fish has been well silted. It has no silt, and it's very clean. Otherwise, if you do SAD-based fish meal, you may not be able to get. And it's always important not to buy the fish meal that you are not sure of its source. It's better to buy fresh omena, go meet it for yourself, but do not buy the raw fish meal that is made. You are not very sure of the quality unless you do an analysis and find that it is quality protein and can be used to the bird. So be very careful when you are selecting your product, the sources of protein. So I have talked of 4 sources of protein. The other product that you can be used as the source of protein in the meat and bone meal. And I keep on telling the farmers that there is a bone meal that is a source of calcium, and there's meat and bone meal. In this case, I'm talking of a product that has 50% meat and 50% bones, because we are looking for protein. If you're looking for calcium, that's a different thing. But in this case, when you're looking for a source of protein, you must ensure that what you are buying is meat and bone meal. Do not buy bone meal, just buy meat and bone meal. Ensure that that's what you are given. It should be 50% meat that has been boiled, dried, and milled. It must be meat and bone that has been boiled or steamed well to kill all the diseases that could have been available. It has been dried and then it has been milled. That is the correct. It should be 50% protein and 50% calcium. The other product that we have as a source of protein is the blood meal. Blood meal is a clean blood that has been totally dried and milled. Ensure that you get a clean blood meal from a good source. Otherwise, if you do not get a clean blood meal, you may end up infecting your birds. So those are the few sources of protein that we have. As I said, protein is the most important factor in poultry nutrition because it provides the muscles, it provides the organs, it's the one that helps the birds into the growing. We have to synthesize those muscles that we can have a good production in our animals. The bird being deficient of most of the amino acid, not being able to synthesize the essential amino acids, so we have to provide. We need to source as many sources of proteins as possible, because what I said is that one product as being a source of protein may be having a profile of 5 amino acids that are essential and not having 5, and the other one has other 5 not having 3. So we need to combine all these in small quantities that we can be able to achieve the 10 essential amino acids that are important for the poultry. But bearing in mind, you have to look at the cost of also of the production of the egg or the meat that you're doing.